This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hello there and welcome to the Wednesday Week podcast, and this is My Wednesday. It's our spin-off show that we started a year or so ago. This is series 2. We had a bit of a sabbatical and then we've come back, and this is the second time in 2 weeks you'll have listened to my dulcet tones. And it's my great pleasure today to introduce you to Matt Fowler. Now, we met at Accrington Stanley last season.
We did indeed.
And then we didn't see each other, and then he sat in front of me at Wembley. So we went from the highs of Accrington and the lows of Wembley. Or have I got that the wrong way around?
From Alex Mighton to Josh Windass, yeah.
Yes. Oh, God, Alex Mighton. He scored as well, didn't he, on that day?
He scored that day, yeah. And I didn't stop singing his name all games.
Yeah. So welcome to My Wednesday, Matt. That's fine. What we always do is we delve back into your dim and distant past. So we always like to pick away at why you've become a Wednesday fan and why, because I know you don't live that close to Hillsborough anymore, and I know you do a lot of travelling. So, Matt, tell me about yourself and tell me why you love Wednesday.
Wow. Well, where it all starts, really, I was born in Northern General. My family, I lived in Chapeltown, but only for a few months as a baby. My mum's from, now again, she pronounces it Sheercliff, but people say Shycliffe. My dad's from Stannington, so I suppose in the middle, you could say, is Hillsborough. But they both worked for Bass, or Stones as it was back then, and moved to Derby. So as a child, I actually grew up in the suburb of Derby. So I did a bit of a check of past with football. I was growing up in the 80s, and I may have owned a couple of Everton shirts, a dodgy Coventry Hummel shirt that's back now in fashion, the half and half. After they won the FA Cup. And maybe the odd picture of me in a Derby County kit as well from when I was growing up with my friends. But I always knew I was from Sheffield, and we always knew we go back because my dad's got a big family. My mum's got a family in Sheffield as well. So we go back very regularly to Sheffield. And I suppose I need to admit that my first ever football match was actually at Bramall Lane. And it was Derby County versus Sheffield United. And my dad took me. And I remember the game, 1986. And I remember the goal that Derby scored. It's scored by a guy called Phil G. Very tall, rangy striker. Funny thing was, when I was 18, I actually ended up playing the same team as Phil G.
Right.
I actually ended up playing the same team as him, and the training was terrible because I was a goalkeeper and he just used to stick them past me left, right, centre. So I knew then that'd be no good. But then, I suppose in the late 80s, I just knew I was from Sheffield, and my family was very divided between Blades and Owls. My closest uncle was probably, he was a Sheffield United season ticket holder. My granddad came from a generation of going to both Wednesday and United, and used to live behind the John Street stand when he was younger. So he used to go to both, and they always talk about Owlerton, going to the dog track and everything like this. And then, just Sheffield Wednesday, I think probably the name, there's the city, it was the closest ground to where I was born. And perhaps I don't want to be a bit different to everyone else at school. And I followed Sheffield Wednesday in the late 80s. I would say my first kit was the green and white hooped.
The much derided kit because it was very close to Celtics kit, wasn't it? You either love it or hate it.
That was my first kit. Yeah, so that became Sheffield Wednesday. So
fantastic. So you went to the dark side, then you went to the even darker side. And then you saw the light.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember, I had a Sheffield Wednesday scarf, and my first ever Sheffield Wednesday game was actually at the baseball ground, and it was the memorable John Hawkes Master Blaster from him past Peter Shilton, and I had my Wednesday scarf on, but I was in the Derby end behind the goal in the middle tier behind Peter Shilton, and
wow.
I want to say there was the Normanton Road end is called, and the Osmaston end was full of the away end. It was before they moved them to the side. It was when they had them behind the goal, and it just erupted.
Yeah,
the end just erupted. And I just remember I just wanted to be in there. I had my Wednesday scarf on. I had it covered up because I was in the Derby County end. I just remember it just erupting. I was like, oh my God, I just want to be in that away end. So yeah, it was just brilliant. And then what an iconic goal as well. I didn't know what it meant, but what an iconic goal past England's number one at the time.
It always reminds of that yellow kit. People talk about that yellow kit and what players that reminds them, and him striking that ball. The pass, I think it was from Worthington across, and 2 or 3 paces, then hit it, and to be England's keeper at the time as well.
And he wasn't even close to it. I was behind. He wasn't even close to that. No way. I always thought he was a bit short to be England's goalkeeper. Peter Schultz a bit. Yeah, it was a hell of a strike. And just the away end just erupted. I just remember seeing just limbs everywhere and the noise the fans made all night. Like I said, I had my Sheffield Wednesday scarf on. To me, as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, and I was very proud that day. Go back in school the next day
with the scarf well and truly over the top of the uniform.
Yeah.
So from that, obviously living away from Sheffield, when did you start going on a regular basis to home games, etc.? Was it that same season or
no? It was a few years later, actually, to be honest with you. My first ever trip to Hillsborough was the 93 Blackburn second leg League Cup final, League Cup semi-final. We won 2-1 after we'd won 4-2 at Ewood Park. Again, I was into playing football, so I would play most weekends, and I was more about that than watching at the time.
Okay.
I suppose, and my family weren't huge football fans in terms of spectators. So it was, I think, enough badgering then, and we went to the Blackburn, and then I think it was the midweek. It might have been the same week or the following week. It was the Derby County replay. Yeah. After the 3-3, and we won 1-0, and that was it. I was hooked. And then after then, it was, I think, 95. My first season tickets. On the Cobb with my mum. She'll be very pleased for me to mention her. She we had a couple of season tickets for a few years, and then since then, as much as I can do in between work, family, moving away, and now season ticket holders on the North Stand with someone I'm not only allowed to mention him once, so I'm not going to talk about him just yet.
Right, okay. So when you were who were you playing football then for in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s then?
I was just growing up, so it was local kids football. So it was in the area. I actually played in the same team as that well-known Sheffield Wednesday left-back Kevin Nicholson. I think he made one appearance for us. But he was a friend of mine from school, and we played in the same football team on a Saturday, and then we play for Wednesday. Done one thing more than I ever achieved.
So obviously, a lot of people sometimes deride this podcast because we talk about the 90s, but it's that little piece of nugget of history that we cling to, of people of a certain age, men and women of a certain age, cling to, because we saw over that period of time, probably stemming from the Howard Wilkinson days into the Ron Atkinson period, and then Trevor Francis, obviously, was that the players that we had at that time, which unfortunately we took for granted. So sitting from afar for a while until you were going on a regular basis, who were your sort of players growing up as a teenager and then into your early 20s, etc., were sort of the players that you, being a guy who plays football, who did you sort of admire the most in the blue and white stripes?
Well, I used to play as a goalkeeper, and then I used to play as a centre forward. So my school team I play in goal, and then on a weekend I play up front. So back then there was only really obviously David Hurst. What a striker. Unbelievable. And I always used to enjoy going to Hillsborough, watching Kevin Pressman warm up. He was somebody I used to get into Hillsborough early and watch his routine and take his routine with me and copy it and try and do the same warm up and try and see what he was doing. And we'd always get in the ground early because of travelling and parking. So we'd get in there, and I'd always. My mum would need to go to the toilet. I'm right. So I got time for this, Mum. I'm up to the back of the cop and I'm watching the warm up because the keepers always came out early. So Kevin Pressman, and then I just from a striking perspective, no one hit a ball better than than David
Hurst.
Yeah. So
it always makes you wonder. I mean, he had a fantastic career anyway, but when he had that cruise ship injury, it makes you wonder if he'd approached it more professional, like professionals do now, what sort of career he would have had, for England and beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, he came back from that injury, didn't he? I think it was a Steve Bold tackle, which was the kind of main one. But he was always kind of targeted in lots of tackles. But it's just this power the guy had running, the strike, the ability to just know where the goal was. It was what he could have been. And again, I think it's probably well documented that back then players didn't perhaps look after their bodies the way they do now, etc. But he was just on the edge of. I think he had his first England cap, and he was what a player.
If you've seen him, if he'd ended up playing up front with Alan Shearer, then it probably we would have had maybe a cup in under his belt in regards to winning stuff.
Yeah, we don't seem to, apart from the 1991, which I remember ruining my mum's coffee table over. Apart from that, we were looking cup finals, but if we had those two, we'd have been definitely up there. Although Paul Warhurst was a fine striker, fitting for a period of time. And
Well, I was thinking that because you were saying goalkeeper and then forward. I was thinking, well, Paul Warhurst. I think he was he a right back or central defender? Centre half, yeah.
But he saved us at Derby away. I remember I was listening to that game in the 92-93 Cup run. And we were the Premier League side and Derby were League One, a Championship, or whatever they were, Division 1. And obviously I was in Derby. And, oh my word, I think we went 1-0 up, then went 1-1. Then we went 2-1 up, then it went 2-2, then it went 3-2 Derby. And I remember I was listening to Radio Derby and I was absolutely beside myself. I could not cope with it. Could not cope with this now. I think it was Warhurst who made it 3-3, took it to a replay. And I was, thank you for that, Paul. Appreciate that.
So at school, because I was actually brought up, my sort of secondary days was out in Derbyshire, in Bakewell. So a lot of my friends were Derby fans, or they were Liverpool or Tottenham fans, because during the sort of mid 80s, obviously Liverpool were winning everything, and Ossie Ardiles, Hoddle, etc. at Tottenham, and so one of my mates was a big Tottenham fan. But there was no real Wednesday, even though we were only 22, 23 miles away from Sheffield. So there was a certain amount of stick given by friends. There's quite a rivalry between Wednesday and Derby. I'd certainly in the recent years. What was it like then growing up as a kid? What was it like in the schools, being a Wednesday and then the majority I take were Derby fans?
Yeah. I was. So we were South Derbyshire, so towards Burton-on-Trent, near Staffordshire. But there was one of the lad in my year who was a massive Wednesday fan, and we became best friends. We literally became best friends, and even unfortunately for the last few years, not remained in contact. But we were the two Wednesday fans, and at that time we had the upper hand over Derby going through those years. I don't think it's until about 98, 99, or 97 when Derby started beating us and never looked back. It was, I think it was like 30 odd years yet, won at Hillsborough, and then they turned up and beat us 5-2 once, and that was it. So it was all right because Derby weren't a major threat. They were a smaller club. They didn't have a big ground or huge attendances, so I could kind of lord it over them a little bit because we would beat them and beat them in key games or whatever. So I would proudly wear my Wednesday. My Wednesday training top, the Umbro blue and black one at the time, or whatever. But even when we lost in the cup finals, I proudly wore it to school the next day, going, "Not fair yet. We lost the cup final, but it doesn't matter. I'm still proud of the team."
Did you make it to any of the Wembleys then in the early 90s? No,
I didn't make it to any of those. Unfortunately, my uncle went. My uncle went to the Sheffield Wednesday one. He actually gave me his program and ticket stub from that game. So that I've got that somewhere, but that's from the United end. So no, we didn't make it to any of those cup finals. So I just remember watching them and developing OCDs as the game went on, trying to convince that my actions would help our cause. But unfortunately not.
We have a number of podcasters who think very much the same based on whether or not they turn up early or late. And recently it was the consumption of a full trifle which we drew with Huddersfield afterwards. And Holly felt that by eating an entire family trifle, that then changed the way that Wednesday would play.
I went through phases of when we were going to Hillsborough. I look at the scoreboard 4 times and look away.
Yeah,
thinking that was influencing. This is probably more mental health than football, but this is something that I thought would influence the game, and I can't ever remember not doing it and it costing the game. But it's just strange, wonderful things as goes on in matches that you think you're so involved, aren't you? And
yes, It is funny, isn't it? The superstitions people have. I used to, when I first moved out from home, I shared a house with a guy in Handsworth, and he was a massive Wednesday fan, and he didn't wash his shirt until we lost a game. So I remember the season when Pleat was managing. I think we were top of the league and we won so many games at the start of the season.
4 games, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he used to put this shirt on the radiator, and he was a big lad, so you can imagine. And he'd put it on the radiator, and you'd walk into the kitchen, and it was a terraced house, and you'd be hit by this smell of Umbro Sanderson shirt slowly going off on the radiator. It was pretty hideous, really. So, yeah, I don't shave before a match, so I don't shave every morning, and trust me, it doesn't work. So I don't know what.
Well, you may have done last season, but not so much this season.
Not so much this season. So obviously, getting a season ticket in the mid-90s, we started seeing a little bit of a tail off of performances, didn't we? Who was playing then? Who were the regulars when you started going on a regular basis to Hillsborough?
Well, it's a great actual point you made, Dex. Actually, that season you're talking about was probably, I think, maybe in our second season tickets on the Cop. So it was the Richie Humphreys goals against Aston Villa, Leeds, Leicester. Leicester, I think it was when we won the 4th game. And then Waddle, I think, was just still there or may have just left. But when I was going, Waddle, and then came along and Sheridan's final year, moving on to then the Carboni era, the following Di Canio times, and then into the Nicholas Alexanderson before we kind of went down. And then I had a resurgence back in the first relegation bit where we had the John Bestweathericks and Guy Branston and all these kind of fantastic players, and the young lads that came through and then moved on to the other side, the Lee Bromberys, the Derek Gearys, the Alan Quinns, and those kind of players. So I've seen some interesting teams at times.
The Italians, we sort of have a talk about the Italians. I mean, everybody, sort of, some people of a certain era forget about those guys and sort of go for Hurst and Waddle and Sheridan. But I think those 2 players brought just amazing skills and some amazing football. I remember going down to White Hart Lane, Di Canio scoring, and he had the Tasmanian Devil T-shirt underneath his shirt. I mean, were you there when he pushed the referee over?
No, I wasn't at that game, the Arsenal one. No, but
I
saw all about it, and it was more interesting Lee Briscoe's winner, to be honest. I didn't think that Di Canio would go that far. But one of the players back then I remember, I always thought was never given enough chance, but I thought would do better was the Dutchman Orlando Trustful.
Yes.
Funny story, not a funny story, but my mum once for my birthday took me on a stadium tour before they did them as stadium tour. She actually contacted the club and asked if we could go around. They went to the training ground and the first team was training, and he came out and I got his autograph, got a picture, and I just thought he's a really cool kind of guy. And then I watched him play a few times. Thought he's got something about him. Mm-hmm. It was around the time we had the Darko and Dejan Stefanovic, Darko Kovacevic, and those guys. But I always thought Trustful had something about him that could have been more, but we never got to see it. I remember meeting him, and he just seemed a really nice guy. To be fair,
I remember thinking that he was a good player. I think we had a number of core players that we didn't build upon in those times, the sort of Reggie Blinker days, Di Canio, but then we brought people in like Peter Atherton, sort of players who maybe...
Nolan was a player back, maligned a little bit, but actually it just wasn't Nigel Worthington.
No.
That's the kind of thing, but Ian Nolan did a great job.
Huge boots to fill when you look at the guys who left and I think that was a lot of the trouble.
I remember Roland Nielsen's final game. I was at that game. I think it was against Man City, the last game of the season. Man City, a set of fans always respected as away fans at Hillsborough, but the best before they had the money. Even then, they were always loud at Hillsborough. Always well respected. But yeah, I remember Roland Nielsen's last game. And then I can't remember who we signed as right back. Wasn't Blondu, it was somebody else, and he was never going to be the same. So never going to be the same as Roland Nielsen. So.
No. It's. I remember going down to Coventry when he came back, and he played at Coventry, and standing in the away end, just sort of heartbroken. This guy was playing in blue and white stripes, but it was a different blue, and I never thought if he'd never come back, I would have. I'm actually going to a dinner at Hillsborough in a few weeks where he's the guest speaker. So it should be interesting to have a chat to him about his time at Hillsborough, because he was just a consummate professional, wasn't he? Just superb.
Just a Rolls Royce of a footballer, and just glided across the pitch and had everything as far as I could, remember seeing him. Just never seemed to make a mistake. Apart from, I think he's a back pass against Blackburn hit the post. That's about it. Yeah,
superb. So we go into the dark days. We go into the Championship as it's League One, and then I think we escape relegation down into the next division, which is now called League One. But then we've ended up there eventually. So we've obviously mentioned some of the lads that have come through over the years, and obviously the Quins and so on and so, Derek Geary. But we had a bit of a bright spell, didn't we? We're under Paul Sturrock. And we went to Cardiff in the Cardiff playoff.
Awesome day. Bit of a local game for me by then, because I was living in Weston-Super-Mare by then. It was my first year actually down in the southwest. So I went with when I moved down to Weston, I started staying in a B&B. A friend of mine recommended it, but the guy who owned it was a Wednesday fan.
Wow, we're everywhere.
Me and my mate who came down, and him and his son, we all went to Cardiff together. And I remember, walking the streets of Cardiff, absolutely, I knew we had a great fan base, but just in awe of what it was like around the ground. And then the game was so draining and so emotional and so long that when we came out, it was really quiet. And it was where I was anyway. I was in the upper tier. It seemed really quiet. Like everyone was just exhausted and just needed a rest from the game. But what a memory that was. Yeah.
It was a huge roller coaster, wasn't it? Of being up and then down, the penalty, and
that third and fourth goal, we and Drew Talbot.
Talbot. Yeah, Drew Talbot's goal. That still one that sticks in my memory of taking that ball, and just I think huge relief.
Yeah, because it's still Wednesday, but we're still not home and dry yet. It's we've got no minutes left. We've got a goal to go. We still need another one, and good.
So you moved. Somebody might have picked up on that to Weston-Super-Mare.
I did, yeah.
So obviously with work, I would suggest.
Yeah. Moved around for work and then settled in Weston-Super-Mare. Yeah.
So that's pretty far away.
It's not the closest. Got to be honest, to Hillsborough. I'm still lucky. I had my parents my mum in Derbyshire, so we get to go and stay there when we come up. But yeah, it's 186 miles each way.
And you have a season ticket on the North Stand.
Yes, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, to speak to people like yourselves who, I know when we bumped into each other at Accrington, it was that case, and you told me, we live in, and obviously Accrington's even further north.
Yeah.
And that to me is the whole thing about being a football fan, not just being a Wednesday fan, being a football fan, is doesn't matter where you are in the country, you will travel and you will go and watch them. And that's so. We've been to Wembley. We've gone up. Unfortunately, I thought that Cardiff. I thought that Paul Sturrock had a bit of a short straw that following year.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he should have had a longer time to build that team.
But we had a group of players there, a couple of little gems in regards to Chris Brunt and Glenn Whelan.
I mean, I remember seeing Chris Brunt score at Leeds, a home game against Coventry, where he absolutely, rifled it from distance. And I think Glenn Whelan was around that time really starting to hit his straps in terms of what he could be. David Lucas in goal, Lee Bullen, Graham Lee, I think it was as well. Centre half, Frankie Simic, and all these players. And we had probably a team that you'd say was a team. There were these standout, massive, apart from Chris Brunt. I think Steve McLean was up front, Lee Peacock, and those kind of players. And it started changing a little bit as we went into the next few years. But you could see that Chris Brunt and Glenn Whelan were good players, but I think what they went on to achieve, I was quite, probably like, that's wow, they had great careers, and always enjoyed watching them play.
Were you doing many away games then as well? Because I know you do a lot now, don't you?
I do. I was back then. I remember, was it our first season? We got relegated and went to Swindon away, and Chef Kikuchi scored.
Yeah.
And I think we're 3-1 up and thought we were going to absolutely HMSP the league, and then it was 3-2. I think we're 3-0 up, and it was 3-2 before we knew it, and we would go again kind of scenario. So I would do away games, random sporadic ones really. I remember we've gone to Bramall Lane a few times. Quite interesting with my uncle. He's a Sheffield United. He was the Sheffield United season ticket holder, and we went and we followed him where to park, and we went in the Shoreham chip shop. There's a chip shop on the Shoreham road behind there, and obviously we had no colours. It was me, my mum, my sister, my friend, and my uncle. And we're just messing around in a chip shop. It's before match. It's a night match. We always played them on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Horrible. Things that there may have been the Flare night when they fired a flare into our fans. It was a bit of it. And my uncle was a bit of a joker. And he is a big, tall man, full beard. And we were messing around it, and this chip shop's full. I remember a pub next door, and he just turned around and says, "If you lot don't shut up, I'm going to tell the rest of this lot you support." I'm like, "Oh my god, the chip dead." It's like, oh no. I think even he realised afterwards, you're all right, but suddenly everything, you just feel like everything. All right, okay, yeah. So we just got our food and shuffled on out as his eyes were on us. And, made our way around to the Bramall Lane end. But did quite a lot of away games.
Yeah. So, how old's your boy now? How old's your son?
Morgan, he's 16, and we're allowed to mention 16. Him once. So yeah, Morgan's 16. My daughter, she's 15, but he's the football fan.
Because he was with you, so he's a year older than my boy. So when did he get indoctrinated into becoming a Wednesday fan? Did he have much choice for a start?
No choice. Literally, I have got pictures of me 6 months old with a Wednesday shirt on, and he always wore a Wednesday kit to his training. He's quite interesting. He's on the north stand, and he's probably the only one there with a southwest accent. And he says I slip into Sheffieldish quite easily when I get around the city. But he had no choice. However, he wasn't hugely into supporting football or following football. But I want to say the Euros a couple of years ago was, I look back on my life and say probably Italia 90 was a big thing, something that got me interested into it. And then club started meaning more than country. And I was hoping that something would come along and kickstart his passion for football. And it was definitely the Euros. And then we went to the Huddersfield Town League Cup home leg about 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was in August. Oh, just fancy going up to the match, and he went, go up. Well, he'd done a few games. He'd been to the Wickham promotion game. I think he'd done probably about 10 or 15 games before then, all the way through his life. And then we went to that game. I said, they're selling season tickets. Is this something you fancy doing? And he went, yeah, I don't mind. I went, well, if you commit to it, mate, I'll commit with you, but you've got to commit to it. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, no, I'll do it. And he has been absolutely non-waving in his support of going up and down the motorway, staying away, traveling. When most people are home, we're getting home about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night to drive in, and we leave at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, or we stay at my mum's the night before. So, and he's absolutely, even this season, he's not wavering. I was a little bit worried after the start we'd had, sure, but no, he's still fully committed to it. So.
I think it's quite nice because you've got it's that time of dad and lad together, isn't it? And I know myself with Ethan, I know Ash is on the podcast with Lewis, his son. We've really enjoyed that over the last few years, doing a lot of home and away. It is that bonding because as they become teenagers, they obviously
so much everywhere else for them to keep them occupied. I mean, absolutely. He grew up through the PlayStation era, and it still is, but stopped doing that. And didn't really go out with his friends that much, but he does now. And there's all these other things. There's the phone. There's all these other things to keep him occupied. But I really am grateful for his commitment. And yeah, my time with him is probably far more enjoyable than the actual football at times.
Yes.
And do you know what? It's what my mum used to say when we used to go. You know, she used to do that time with me, and I'd be more about the football. But it's wonderful, and just to see him enjoy it, and you know, just to say, I mean, the Wembley when we saw you in Wembley, we went for the full weekend. We stayed down there. We were in Covent Garden all night and all afternoon on the day before. Then we were at Wembley that day, and how can you ever can't buy that.
So fast backwards a little bit. So we'll pick on that in regards to Wembley. So did you go up on the Friday night? Did you go up on the Friday night and see the playoff semi against Peterborough?
We went. Again, it was one of those. We watched the away leg because at that point we were struggling for points. We're not now. We're in the upper brackets now. Points. We're struggling for points, so we couldn't get to Peterborough away in the semi-final. But we sat there and went, 4-0, we're not going. It's too far. I'm not bothered. You know, it's done. Season's done. How can we gone from top? How can we gone from this position? How can this have happened? You know, it's Sunderland all over again. You know, we're devastated after Sunderland the year before. We're not going. And then the week went on and said, look, we've got tickets. What's the worst that can happen? We already know we're out. What's the worst that can happen? And it's like, all right, then we'll go. All right, we'll go.
I'm going to say, because I travel 15 miles. But you've got that 100-odd mile journey up there. On a night game. Well. It was a Thursday night, wasn't it? Not a Friday. Yeah. Thursday night. Yeah. You probably got work next day, school the next day.
He did, yeah. There's quite a few night matches. He's managed to be. Again, night matches with him was like, you can go if you go to school. He's like, okay, I'll go to school.
Yeah. That is commitment for a teenager.
Yeah.
Definite commitment for a teenager.
So we kind of ummed and ahed about it, and then literally I think it's the day before. I come on, let's go. What we've got to lose? We've followed them this far.
Yeah.
At least show our appreciation for what they've done this season. If they have absolutely royally screwed it up, and then we win.
So what was the conversation like going up, and then what was the conversation like coming back down? I mean,
the conversation going up was. Oh, look, here's what it is. Literally, we had no chance. We did not see ourselves having a chance. And even, I think we stopped at my mum's on the way up, and she said, oh, they've got a chance, haven't they? And we're like, nah, we haven't got a chance. So we're quite relaxed, actually. We're quite relaxed. And then, obviously, we're going to Hillsborough a little bit early, and then it was really ramping up, and the video of Darren Moore coming across. I'm like, do you know what? We can do this. Yeah, I think we can do this. And all the nights and matches I've been to Hillsborough, that atmosphere that night, we sat in a row on the North Stand, and the comical geniuses on our row. Just got one of those rows, and it was just brilliant. But we were all over the place, just hugging random people. As you know from Wembley, it's kind of a thing. But it's just absolutely fantastic. But I've got another interesting story about this as well. That after the Bristol City game. Living down there, I actually went out that night in Bristol. A friend of mine said, do you want to go out? So I went out with him. And I was out, and this bloke walked past me. I thought, I swear that looks like Jack Hunt. I swear that's Jack Hunt. But when you see people in real life, and you kind of go, is it the real person or not? And anyway, so I went up to this bloke. I obviously had a bit of courage in me because I'm not normally like this. And I put on my best Sheffield accent. Is that Jack Hunt? There's a dead ringer for Jack Hunt. He went, no, I'm not Jack Hunt. Oh, sorry, mistake. He goes, where are you from? So I said, well, I'm from Sheffield. And he looked at me, and he goes, oh, who'd you follow? And I've got owl's eyes tattooed down there. I just showed him my arm, and he actually kissed my arm. And we had a chat, and he just went, he just talked about Sheffield Wednesday and how much he loved it. And so I did ask him about that penalty. He said, Jack, I bought him a drink. He said, Jack, here's a drink. He said, tell me about that penalty. Did you miss-hit it? Because it took forever, as far as I remember, to go into that top corner. And he went, no, he goes, as a right back, we were trained to accurately cross. And it was I just crossed it into the top corner, were his words. So
he stood around chewing his chewing gum.
Yeah, so you chewing your chewing gum.
Which is a pet hate of mine, footballers chewing gum. And then just stood there like going, I've scored it.
Good, that was it. I said, wow, But yeah, he absolutely he loved his time at Wednesday. He told me a few things as well, but I can't repeat what they are.
No, fair. I can.
He was drunk.
Yeah, because of course he's down there at Rovers now, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously that led us to Wembley, and you've touched on Wembley, and I know for a fact you were in front of us, and we did a bit of celebrating together, didn't we, Matt?
We did, yeah. A couple of cuddles down. Yeah, I remember you. The Will Volks goal, I think that was the cuddle number one. And then
yeah.
That was ruled out for offside. Jack Hunt again, funny enough.
Yeah. Yeah, if all the goals to score to win a playoff final, the Volks goal would have been the goal, really, wouldn't it?
Great goal.
Yeah. And to this day, looking how things are going at the moment at Essex, you might not ever get the chance to score a goal like that again. I don't know. It's a fantastic strike. But then obviously one of the most boring, crappiest games ever at Hillsborough, but Joshua Windass pops up, 20+3, and the rest is history, effectively, on that great day back in May.
Except if I remember right, I think I nipped down to the concourse at half-time and literally got stuck and couldn't get back up. And I came back up, and then there's all this commotion going on. And I said to you, what's gone on? And he said, he's been sent off. Like, oh, God, he's been sent off. How can we be down to 10 men? No, Barnsley player's been sent off. I was like, oh, fantastic, we're in here. I went to Oakwell away and I watched Barnsley at home, and there's the only team I was worried about in that league, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought they were far better than us for the season. And then they were down to 10 men. I thought, we've got this now. We made such hard work of it.
Yeah.
But I still didn't think we were going to score, even to the point then when we did score after the first goal. But yeah, just to see Wembley just explode like that. Like say, we were right in line with the kind of 18-yard box, goalpost area, lower tier, under the roof, and it just went balmy. It just went off when that ball hit the back of the head. Yeah. Couldn't believe it, actually.
No. And I think to our kids, it meant so much as well. I mean, Ethan was there back when we lost against Hull, and I remember him. He was fine afterwards, and then about 2 hours later, we were sat in a curry house in Harrow, and he just burst into tears. And I think then every grown man around the table who'd gone down was burst into tears because Ethan set us all off. For him to then
we went to the Hull game, and actually kind of came out there and thought, well, we didn't deserve anything from that. No. We're nowhere near good enough that game. The Huddersfield one, we're gutted about that one.
Just a little bit of, let's go back in time a little bit to that pick on that strand about the sort of those days under Carlos. Now, we've talked about the sort of players in the 90s, and we've talked about the players around the Sturrock period where we had a little bit of brightness. Obviously, Mr. Chansiri threw a bucket load of cash at it to try to get us in the Premiership. And we saw some really, really great players for a short period of time, I would say. Who at that time sort of who sort of felt had a spark there? Who were the players who stood out in your opinion that time?
Lopez, midfield. I always like a midfielder. George Byes is my screensaver on my phone at the moment because unfortunately that's probably based on last year. But Lopez, I thought was Kieran Lee. Always had utter time for Kieran Lee, the way he played the game. Lopez as well. Bannon, I think, has always been a mainstay around those times as well. But yeah, I think that for me, it would have to be probably, I thought he was one of the best midfielders around we never really saw enough of. And I think he was left out of the final.
He was. Hutch came in for him, didn't they?
Yeah, again, but a player like Hutchinson, injured, but different dynamic, different type of player, offered you the kind of leadership and you always wonder when he went in for a tackle, oh God, what's going to happen here? But he lived on the edge, didn't he? So
red card. I think Hutch bingo we called it, wasn't it? Would he get sent off? Would he injure himself?
We scored some cracking goals back. I mean, Ross Wallace, Adam Reach. We were literally littered with unbelievable goal scorers. That, we were taken for granted. Some of these finishes we were seeing. It was awesome. But yeah, I thought Lopez, Alex Lopez, isn't it? Is that his name?
To me, it's a shame. If he played in the final, would we have won? Maybe not. But we should have kept him for. He was on loan, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It would have been great to have seen him another season. But unfortunately,
absolutely.
that is what happened. And then tried to brush over the Josh Lukai
Gary Monk.
days and Gary Monk and obviously Steve Bruce.
I don't think Steve Bruce was a bad time. I thought we played some okay stuff under Steve Bruce in terms of he knew how to win games. In terms of that, it's just the way he left the club, and we all knew it was coming in.
Yeah, I think the problem was I mean, yeah, I agree. He brought some players in, he changed the style. We seemed to have a togetherness, and I think there was some amount of positivity to the fan base that they thought we might be going somewhere. This might be the first bright star after Carlos leaving, but we know where that ended up. So we've obviously been at Wembley. What happened is what happened in regards to Darren Moore leaving. I want to forget about Cisco Munaz. I think
we've got to touch on that.
So, okay, Cisco.
I'm not one, and I never have been, and never will be. And I was annoyed on the North Stand hearing people boo Cameron Dawson. But at Swansea away, I was singing for that man's head. I never normally do that. In fact, I was singing him how shit his football is, because I could not understand what we were doing. No. And I could not fathom out what we were playing. We were trying to play a low block defensive football with players who we knew in League One could not do that. And it was just torture, waiting for the inevitable to happen. And there's like a slow death every match.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't understand what he was trying to achieve or thought he would get from this game, apart from a lucky point at Leeds. Yeah. And at Swansea, I find it, and I thought at the time it wasn't really a penalty at Swansea. Then looking back on it, okay, potentially probably was. But I just, what we doing? What is this about? I don't get it. And I think it was just the Sunderland home game, when the statements and things like that have been made. We actually left at half time. I've never left a game made in my life. But we'd driven up, and it took us 5 hours that day to get there. And we listened to you guys on the way, because as you know, we listened to the Wednesday week on the way to games. And we listened to that. And I was just so flat. I couldn't even be bothered to stand up and applaud them coming out of the tunnel. I knew we were going to get rinsed by Sunderland. I thought they're the best probably team I've seen all season. And it's 3-0. And then my son and I turned to each other and said, look, are we going? It's 33 minutes. And he went, well, if they score one more or half-time, whichever comes first. And I was praying for a fourth. I was saying, could we get a fourth? I've got to see it till half-time. And I sat until half-time. I think like the rest of Hillsborough, a bit like on Saturday against Millwall, and we kind of emptied at that point.
I think Sunderland felt sorry for us and made it a training match in the second half.
Yeah,
they just basically brought their kids on and used it as a training game, which
I think we got home an hour earlier that day.
Yeah, massively embarrassing. So obviously he's gone. We know how bad he was. Thanks for reminding me. Thanks for reminding me about the Swansea game as well. Which is a darn sight. I know it's not much. It's okay. It's on the doorstep for you, but it's a bloody trek from Sheffield. It's old Swansea. Yeah. So let's have a look at Danny Rule. What do you think? How are you feeling? I know the results haven't been great. I mean, certainly Saturday's result wasn't. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think Cisco just touched on about. It's a bit like, not saying when Alex Ferguson and Darren Moore is similar, but when someone who's brought success to your team leaves. Nobody really understands why he likes it. The next guy's not got much of a chance, but he won't get have a chance because of the football he played. Already, I see a huge difference in terms of what we're trying to do with Danny Rule. We've just not got the good enough players. And if I look at the Championship, Watford being an example, Millwall on Saturday a little bit. No one in those teams do I go, oh yeah, I'd love to have that player playing for me, for us. But they're all very similar. They're young, they're athletic, they're quick, and they move the ball in such a way that the receiver is never having to struggle, and it's in tight football. And if you watch Millwall on Saturday, they were just picking up in between the lines, just off the centre mids every time, and we just couldn't cope with that. We tried to do that at Bristol City away, I thought, and so I can see that until we got Bannon sent off, until Bannon was wrongly sent off. But I can see what he's trying to do. He's trying to play a formation where he has it's a 4-3. Sorry, it's a 3-2-3, whatever it is, 1 or whatever. But basically, the two guys play off the striker. They play in the field between the lines. They rotate round, and we play through at the back. And I think it works for us when we get it right. But on Saturday, I just felt our touch was off a little bit, and the ball was never under control. And after 20 minutes, the first goal really killed us a little bit. So, but yeah, I like him. He's brought some energy. I think the fans like him. He's got a bit of charisma. He talks well. Yeah. And Wednesday fans, in my humble opinion, the ones I've ever met and spoke to, are realistic football fans. That they're not the majority of them. They understand the game, understand what we're trying to do, and I think we'll give him a chance. But I just generally don't think we've got the quality overall compared to what I see in the Championship. It's a step up since we were last in the Championship.
Without a doubt, it has moved on, hasn't it? It has moved on. I think what we'll find is hopefully I think some of the loans will go back in January and he'll be able to bring his own players in. And hopefully those 3 or 4 will create that what he's trying to achieve.
Yeah. I mean, I did ring up and try to pay him £100, but there was no one to pay it to. So need some transfer funds in January, then I'm more than happily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Too right. So I asked you a question off air.
You did, yeah.
About if we were to have a 5-a-side match, over the years that you've been following Wednesday, who would be your 5 players that you would pick from keeper to defence, midfield, and up front? Who would you pick?
Right, technical question. Is it a 5-a-side goal from the ones I grew up with, was 2 foot high and 7 foot long, or is it the modern ones which are like this?
You can pick whichever one you fancy.
Right, well, I want the modern ones which are taller and wider, and then big Kev in his heydays filling that for me.
Yeah.
And then he can take penalties if we have any as well.
In his really brightly coloured Sanderson shirt, the purple,
the orange one,
one.
Yeah, big Kev, he'll be filling that for me, definitely. Tremendous goalkeeper, absolutely brilliant, underrated. And then so I've actually gone for Paul Warhurst as my defender because again I'm going all out attack here. So I'm going Paul Warhurst.
He can bring the ball out, can't he? He can bring the ball out.
He can move it out, and if he gets close, he's having a ding. Des Walker would have been my other choice, but his goal scoring record wasn't the best.
Wasn't the best, was it, old Des?
No, bless him. And then midfield, I don't think you can get past Mr. Sheridan. Again, Bannon, people turn he's not fit to lace Sheridan's boots, but I think that's a little bit rose-tinted glasses at times. I think Barry Bannon's an absolutely excellent player, would be brilliant 5-a-side with his quick feet. But yeah, John Sheridan just gets in there for me.
Yeah.
It's the Wembley dink. And then playing alongside him is got to be the only one. It's Chris Waddle, isn't it? Yeah, I'm a 90s guy. Yeah, so Chris will be in there. And then up front would be me. If I was injured, then it'd be David Hurst. So
right, okay, you're putting yourself in there, are you?
Well, me and Hurst, you could have a little half and half each, but I think I could finish some of the chances those two made. I think anyone could. So David Hurst, and then on the bench, just for that goal against Derby, and to make me fall in love with Chef Wednesday. He always seemed to laugh as well.
Yeah,
would be John Harkes.
Would it be mullet or post mullet? Would he have the mullet or full mullet? Full mullet.
Absolute mullet, yeah.
Full mullet. He did.
And Chris Waddle, he could have his mullet as well.
Chris. Although I think when he came to Wednesday, the mullet had gone.
Yeah, it's the Marseille mullet, wasn't it?
It was.
And Marseille. The Spurs, wasn't it? Marseille.
Yeah, I think he was in Marseille as well. I'm sure. And then I think the season before he came, it went. He still had the spikes on top, but the Hawks harking back to South America, sort of. It was the proper, deep south mullet, wasn't it?
Yeah, you can imagine wearing the check shirt and everything with the sleeves off.
Yeah, driving a pickup truck.
Yeah, like Callum Patterson, a bit like Callum Patterson.
Yeah, well, yeah. We've now got our own sort of John Harkes, Scottish John Harkes. So, and who would you have managing?
That's a good question. I mean, you could go back to some of the managers we've had back in those days, but I wrote to one manager, and he actually wrote back to me.
Right, go on.
A letter when I was a kid. So Trevor Francis, he gets.
Right.
I wrote. So I actually wrote him a letter, and I wrote to Chris Waddle. Chris Waddle sent me back a signed picture, and actually Trevor Francis wrote back to me a letter, and I had it framed in my bedroom for years.
Yeah, and What did you write to him?
There's a time when Trevor Francis was getting a bit of stick. I was thinking probably when we're like 7th in the league and losing the cup finals. And I wrote to him as a young fan saying, "No, I thought he was doing a great job, and I just wanted to let him know I was supporting him." And I always support managers. And he wrote back saying, "Thank you so much for your letter. It means a lot." And
wow.
Yeah, so kept it framed. I don't know what that letter is now, but yeah.
Good old Trevor. My friend who I go to matches with absolutely hated him. And I always point out to the point that when we sacked him, we were 7th in the Premiership.
Madness.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, and we just lost the League Cup semi-final that year. I think it was to Man United. I mean,
exactly. I know. It was just crazy. And half the team were an England team, and it was just...
Yeah.
What football shirt would they be wearing? It can be home and away. Home and away.
Ooh, what was that? I only picked out the away one, which would have been the one for my picture for this, which I've got here, which is the black and yellow stripe one.
Which is absolute class. Beautiful.
Yeah, I would have said the green and white one, but it's just too Celtic-y for me.
Yeah.
Even though it was my first ever shirt. But the black and yellow away one with the black shorts and the black socks. That
always reminds me of Warhurst, that kit.
Always reminds me of Chris Williams, that goal.
Yeah. Good shout. Good shout. So what home shirt do you reckon?
Well, I didn't think about that one. So it'd have to be probably the 1992-93 one. The black shorts, blue and black socks.
Yeah.
The little Umbro sign in there, the classic black and white Sanderson. First time we had. No, it wasn't the first time we had squad numbers. I think the cup finals first time we had squad numbers. But that was a classy shirt. And that away shirt that year, actually, the yellow and pinstripe, black and white in it. That was I've got that as well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Matt, thank you so much for your time, mate. It's been brilliant. It's great. And safe journeys to all those matches. I'm sure we'll bump
Birmingham week on Saturday.
Birmingham week on Saturday. Yeah, I'm not going. I've been before. I don't really remember it when I went last time because I was really, really drunk. But then we've got Leicester, I think, and
Leicester, and then it's Blackburn at home.
Yeah, and then we're into Christmas run, and then hopefully we'll see what happens in the when the transfer window opens. Maybe we'll see some ins and outs.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll hear lots more in between. But thank you for having me on. It's been a real pleasure. You guys
brilliant.
Are great. We love listening to the way to matches. So.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much. We do appreciate that. And anybody who's listening to this, don't forget to like and follow us on and subscribe on YouTube. Follow all along the bottom there is our TikTok, our Facebook, our Twitter, or X as they now call it. We still call it Twitter. And we've even got a TikTok page as well. And if you want to have a look on TikTok, if you're down with the kids, you'll be able to see that we spent the last weekend in Germany watching Hertha Berlin. And you'll be able to see how drunk Dan Fudge gets because he got very, very, very drunk. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you really, 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 really soon.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.